You've been eating wrong your entire life, not just for your body, but for your soul. Edgar Cayce revealed that the very meals you trust every day may be silently poisoning your energy and blocking your spiritual growth. And here's the question: how could a man born in the 1800s with no medical training have known this long before modern science even suspected it? This is where we meet Edgar Cayce, often called the sleeping prophet. For more than 40 years, Cayce entered deep trance states and gave over 14,000 readings that touched nearly every part of human life: health, dreams, reincarnation, spirituality, even global events. What made him extraordinary was not only the detail of his answers, but the way they often predicted discoveries that wouldn't be confirmed until decades later. Cayce himself was a simple man, not a scholar or a doctor. He sold insurance, took photographs, read the Bible daily. And yet, when he lay down and entered that sleep-like state, a different voice seemed to speak through him, a voice that revealed the hidden laws of the body, the mind, and the soul. Among all his revelations, some of the most surprising were not about miracles or prophecy, but about something we do every single day: eating. According to Cayce, the way we combine, prepare, and even think about our food has the power to either heal us or harm us in ways we can't even imagine. Most of us grow up believing food is just fuel, calories in, energy out. But Edgar Cayce shattered that idea. He once said, food is vibration, not just matter. What you put into your body doesn't only break down into protein, fat, and sugar. It becomes the frequency that your entire being vibrates on. Think about that for a moment. Every meal, every bite, is more than nutrition. It is energy shaping your mood, your thoughts, and yes, even your soul. And if that's true, then eating the wrong way isn't just a diet mistake, it's a spiritual misstep. Modern science is only beginning to catch up. Researchers now talk about biophotons, tiny packets of light that plants absorb from the sun and store in their cells. When you eat fresh fruits and vegetables, you're literally consuming light, feeding your body with radiant energy. Cayce hinted at this a century ago, urging people to eat foods closest to the sun. And yet, most of us continue eating wrong, loading up on lifeless, processed meals that dim our inner light. Here's another layer: the gut-brain connection. Scientists call it the second brain, because what you eat directly alters your mood, memory, even your ability to feel calm or anxious. Cayce warned about this too, insisting that a sluggish digestive system would eventually cloud the mind and weaken the spirit. Once again, the wrong way of eating isn't just bad for digestion, it silences intuition, it blunts clarity, it weighs the soul down. And then there's timing. Cayce emphasized that food taken at the wrong hours or combined without balance creates disharmony in the body. Today, circadian rhythm research shows exactly that eating late at night throws off hormonal cycles, damages sleep, and disturbs energy repair. What Cayce described in mystical language, science is finally naming in clinical terms. So pause and ask yourself, what vibration did your last meal carry? Was it living energy, or was it dead weight? If food is vibration, then every bite is a choice. Eat wrong, and you're not only hurting your body, you're lowering the frequency of your soul. If food truly carries vibration, then Cayce warned that eating in the wrong way is like tuning your soul to static. He described it not just as a mistake, but as a silent danger, one that creeps in with every careless meal. One of his most striking cautions was about food combinations. He insisted that heavy starches and dense proteins, when taken together, set up conflict inside the body. Modern nutrition shows us why proteins require acidic enzymes, while starches require alkaline ones. Put them together, and digestion slows, fermentation begins, and toxins form. The body feels heavy, but worse, the spirit feels dulled. You've been eating wrong without even realizing it. Cayce also emphasized timing. Eating late into the night, he said, was like asking the body to labor when it was meant to restore. Science now calls this circadian disruption. Eating out of sync with your natural rhythm confuses hormones, weakens sleep, and leaves energy fragmented. Again, the same point returns when you eat wrong. You not only rob the body of rest, you rob the soul of clarity. And then there is the emotional state of eating. Cayce urged people never to eat when angry, anxious, or distracted. Food, he said, absorbs the frequency of your mood. If you swallow in haste, you are swallowing chaos. Today, psychology and medicine confirm it. Stress tightens digestion, increases acidity, and blocks nutrient absorption. But Cayce had already said it in the simplest way: eat with gratitude, or you've been eating wrong all along. So let me ask you, how many of your meals have been eaten on autopilot, in stress, or with poor combinations? How many times have you fed the body but starved the soul? Cayce's message was clear: wrong. Eating is not only a health risk, it is a spiritual weight that chains your energy. If this is striking a chord with you, pause for a moment. Share your thoughts below. Have you ever noticed your mood change after a meal? And if you find this perspective eye-opening, a simple like helps more souls discover Cayce's timeless wisdom. Cayce's warnings about wrong combinations and wrong timing lead us to a deeper truth. Eating isn't random. There are laws of harmony that govern how food should enter the body, and when we ignore them, we pay a price not only in health, but in the heaviness of the spirit. So the question becomes, what is the right way? One of Cayce's most practical answers was what he called the 80-20 balance rule. He urged that 80% of the diet should come from alkaline-forming foods, fresh fruits, leafy greens, and vegetables, and only 20% from acid-forming foods like proteins, grains, and fats. This, he said, was the natural balance of the human body. Think of it this way: your plate is not just a plate, it is a mirror of your inner vibration. When 80% is living, alkaline-rich food, your body stays light, your energy flows freely, and your soul feels aligned. But when the balance tips toward heavy, acidic foods, you've been eating wrong, loading the system with fire while starving it of light. Modern science is beginning to validate this. High-acid diets are linked to inflammation, fatigue, and chronic disease, while alkaline-heavy diets improve immune response and mental clarity. Doctors may frame it in chemical terms, but Cayce already saw it in spiritual ones. Imbalance in food creates imbalance in the soul. Ask yourself, when was the last time your meals carried that 80-20 harmony? If most of your plate is processed, fried, or heavy in protein, you've been eating wrong again, trading vitality for sluggishness and clarity for confusion. The beauty of Cayce's rule is its simplicity. You don't need to count every calorie or chase every trend. Just let the majority of your food come from the garden, not the factory. 8 parts of living energy, 2 parts of grounding substance. In this rhythm, the body heals and the spirit breathes. So next time you prepare a meal, remember, it's not just food, it's frequency. Choose balance, and you're choosing to raise your vibration. Ignore it, and you fall back into the same trap, eating wrong and dimming the very light of your soul. Balance, as Cayce taught, is the key. But once you see the 80-20 rule, another question naturally rises: what happens when that balance is ignored? If the body thrives on light, what are the foods that drag it into shadow? Cayce gave direct warnings here, warnings that feel even more urgent today. He spoke most often about pork and heavy fried foods, saying they left behind impurities the body could not easily cleanse. And science confirms this processed meats are now linked to cancer, clogged arteries, and shortened lifespan. But Cayce's insight went further. He warned that these foods do not simply pollute the body, they weigh down the spirit. They anchor the soul in heaviness, making clarity and intuition harder to reach. In other words, you've been eating wrong not just for your health, but for your higher self. Cayce also pointed to processed and refined foods, white flour, sugary treats, chemically altered oils. These, he said, are lifeless foods, stripped of vibration. Today, nutritionists agree ultra-processed diets fuel inflammation, brain fog, and addiction-like cravings. Again, modern science gives us the chemistry, while Cayce had already named the consequence when you fill yourself with lifeless food. You've been eating wrong, feeding the shell, but starving the soul. And then there is the subtle danger of excessive fried oils and fats. Cayce noted they burn the system, leaving the body sluggish and the mind clouded. Research now calls it oxidative stress damaging cells, aging the body faster. But beyond the science lies a deeper truth: heavy, greasy meals pull your vibration down. Instead of rising toward clarity, you sink into dullness. So, look at your plate with new eyes. Which foods lift you, and which weigh you down? How often have your meals been chosen for convenience, only to leave you tired, irritable, or spiritually numb? Each time you give in, you've been eating wrong, choosing heaviness over harmony. Remember, these foods don't just clog arteries, they cloud your spirit. And once you see this, the choice is no longer only about diet, it is about destiny. After hearing Cayce's warnings, it might feel as if eating has become a minefield. Pork, processed foods, heavy oils, all waiting to weigh down both body and spirit. But Cayce never left us only with cautions. He also revealed a higher path, that eating could become more than survival, more than habit. It could become a sacred act. He often said, pray or meditate before meals. At first glance, it sounds simple, almost old-fashioned. But behind this practice lies a profound truth. Food doesn't only nourish your body, it absorbs the vibration of your state of mind. Eat in anger, and you've been eating wrong, swallowing conflict along with your meal. Eat with gratitude, and you elevate even the simplest bread into spiritual nourishment. Science now echoes what Cayce intuited. Research on mindful eating shows that when people pause, breathe, and approach food with awareness, digestion improves, nutrient absorption increases, and stress hormones decline. It's not just a ritual, it's physiology. But Cayce's vision went deeper. Mindfulness doesn't just heal digestion, it tunes your soul to harmony. Imagine transforming every meal into a kind of meditation. The table becomes an altar, the food a gift, your breath a prayer. Instead of rushing or scrolling, you take a moment of reverence, and suddenly, the act of eating becomes part of your spiritual practice. If you've ignored this, if meals have been swallowed in distraction, you've been eating wrong, starving the deeper self that longs for connection. Cayce believed that gratitude literally changes the vibration of food. In modern terms, stress hormones affect stomach acid, enzymes, even gut bacteria. In spiritual terms, your attitude imprints energy onto the meal. Either way, the message is clear: the spirit with which you eat is just as important as the food itself. So the next time you sit down to eat, try this pause. Close your eyes. Whisper thanks, not only for the food, but for the unseen life force within it. This is how a meal becomes more than a transaction of calories. It becomes communion. And if you've missed this truth until now, then once again, you've been eating wrong, forgetting that eating is meant to be sacred. If eating with gratitude can raise the vibration of a single meal, then imagine the weight of the choices we make every day. Cayce reminded us that food is never only personal, it is moral, spiritual, and karmic. What you place on your plate does not just shape your health, it shapes the destiny of your soul. He spoke clearly about this when food is taken in cruelty, with waste, or without thought for its source. That vibration is carried forward. Every action leaves an imprint. Every bite becomes part of the karma you weave. If you've been eating wrong, it is not only your body that suffers, it is the unseen balance of your soul that grows heavier. Modern awareness is beginning to echo this truth. Today, scientists show how industrial farming devastates ecosystems, how overconsumption accelerates climate change, how waste feeds hunger on the other side of the world. Cayce's language was different. But the meaning was the same. The way you eat binds you to the fate of others. Ignore this, and once again, you've been eating wrong, choosing disconnection over compassion. Cayce often emphasized the spiritual link between all living things. To him, food was part of the great chain of life. When we eat in harmony with nature, respecting plants, animals, and the cycles of the earth, we rise. But when we eat without reverence, destroying and discarding, we fall into the very weight of our own actions. Wrong eating, in this sense, is wrong living. So pause and ask yourself, are your meals shaped by convenience or by consciousness? Do you eat as if life is cheap or as if every bite is sacred? Cayce's answer was clear. Food choices are soul choices. And if you've forgotten this, if you've treated eating as nothing more than appetite, then yes, you've been eating wrong, not just for yourself, but for the world you leave behind. Cayce's teachings on karma make one truth undeniable. Every meal is a choice with consequences. But wisdom is never meant to leave us in guilt. It is meant to guide us toward freedom. If wrong eating can weigh us down, then right eating can lift us up. And Cayce gave us simple, practical steps anyone can begin today. The first is to simplify your meals. He often warned against mixing dense proteins with heavy starches in the same sitting. The body, he said, becomes confused, digestion slows, and toxins form. Science has confirmed this with studies on enzyme conflict and fermentation. So, try this. Let your meals be simple, one focus at a time. If you've been piling everything together, you've been eating wrong, turning your plate into chaos instead of clarity. The second step is to follow the 80-20 rule. Make 80% of your plate fresh fruits, leafy greens, and vegetables, and let proteins and grains form the supportive 20%. This isn't about strict numbers, it's about vibration. When the majority of what you eat is alive, you feel alive. If your plate has been flipped 80% heavy, 20% light, you've been eating wrong, choosing imbalance over harmony. The third step is to eat mindfully, as if each meal were a meditation. Cayce advised prayer or gratitude before eating. Modern research shows mindful eating lowers stress hormones and improves absorption. More importantly, it transforms a meal into a sacred act. If you've been rushing, scrolling, or swallowing anger with your food, you've been eating wrong, not only starving the body, but silencing the soul. Cayce's guidance wasn't only theory. In his lifetime, people followed these principles and saw change. One woman who suffered from chronic indigestion was advised to simplify her meals, shift her diet toward more alkaline foods, and bless each plate before eating. Within weeks, her pain lessened. Within months, her energy returned. She realized she hadn't just changed her diet, she had changed her relationship with life. So here lies your invitation: simplify, balance, and sanctify your meals. These are not rules of restriction, they are steps of liberation. Because if wrong eating can bind your spirit, then right eating can set it free. Practical steps give us tools, but Cayce's vision was never only about diet, it was about destiny. What we choose to eat is not just about comfort today, it shapes the course of our soul tomorrow. And here lies the closing truth: every bite you take writes part of your story. Cayce often said, "The body is the temple of the soul." If that temple is clouded by heaviness, if its rhythm is broken, then the soul cannot shine. You've been eating wrong not just for health, but for the very light that was placed in you. And yet this is not a sentence of guilt. It is an invitation to begin again. Science is slowly catching up. The gut-brain axis, circadian research, studies on plant-based diets all echo the principles Cayce gave nearly a century ago. What he described in the language of vibration, science now describes in molecules and hormones. But the message is the same. Food is not neutral. It either lifts you or lowers you. If you've missed this, you've been eating wrong, forgetting that even your meals carry meaning. So step back and see the bigger picture. This journey is not about fear, but about freedom. To eat with balance is to live with balance. To eat with gratitude is to live with gratitude. And to treat food as sacred is to treat life itself as sacred. Wrong eating has chained generations in illness and confusion. Right eating can release generations into clarity and light. And now, the choice is in your hands. Will you continue to eat as if it doesn't matter? Or will you embrace each meal as a step toward harmony? Remember, every bite shapes not only your body, but your destiny. If this message resonates with you, I invite you to share your reflections in the comments. What changes are you ready to make? And if you found Cayce's wisdom eye-opening, a simple like helps more seekers discover it. Don't forget to subscribe, because this is just one part of a greater journey we are unfolding together.